Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. I am showing you how to make this page along with several others. We're going to start with the back of page 1, which encompasses this and ends at this Life's a Bowl of Cherries. So let's get started with what we need, but I want to first show you what goes into making this page. There is a side loading flap on that page, and here we've got a belly band with a flap. And then on the very back of the page is just a photo mat with a photo mat below it. Now these stamps here are raised up a little. That just gives it some added dimension. All right, so let's get started with the back of page 1. So what you'll need for that is cardstock that measures 8 1/8 by 8. So we're going to score this with the 8 1/8 inch side at the top at 7 1/2 and 7 5/8. That will give us a flap to put on the page plus a gusset. So go ahead and score and burnish, and we're going to put that on the right hand side of page 1. So that's going to give us an extra flap, so we'll have a couple extra pages. So don't forget, glue it down all the way over to the right hand side, and then we're ready to rock and roll. All right, and next we'll take a piece that's 6 by 6 7/8 with the 6-inch side at the top, score at 1 inch. After we've scored this, we're going to take a piece of the red pattern paper. It's got the cherries on it, and of course we'll cut that by 7 7/8 by 7 3/8 and attach that to the page before we put the flap on. Then when the red paper's down, we will adhere that flap. We'll put the 1 inch flap. Of course, I always get my glue stuck right when I'm trying to put it down. So the flap, the tab part, will go to the left hand side of the page, and try to center it on the page as best you can. So we'll put that down and center it. And then we need to take a piece and put it underneath for the photo mat. The size of the photo mat we're going to put down is 5 by 6 7/8, and that's just going to go right on the red paper once you open up the flap. After I adhere magnet, I cover it with the red solid paper, 1/8 of an inch smaller than both of those papers. Okay, and now for the front of this, I'm going to take a 7/8 of an inch strip of that red pattern from the Patterns and Solids. It's 7 by about 6 13/16. So that'll go on the left hand side of the page. Okay, this is from the 12 by 12 paper. And what I'm going to do is, I love these stamps and I don't want to use a whole nother sheet, so I'm going to cut them out, put them on a piece of chipboard, and then add them to the front of the page. So I'm going to get a ruler and cut right at the edge, just 1/32 of an inch off of where that blue stamped edge is. So go ahead, and I use an X-Acto and cut these out. Now if you have extra pattern paper, then you don't have to do this, but I do find at the end that I needed to use every last bit of these images, so I just wanted to make sure I had enough, and I liked having them raised. It just sort of added just some extra dimension. I do cut them both together, and I keep them together. I don't cut them separately. I'll take a scrap piece of chipboard and a piece of the red solid paper. I adhere the red solid paper to the chipboard and then cut it out. The piece ends up being 2 1/4 inches by 3 3/4. And I adhere the stamp images onto the red covered chipboard. But first I do want to take my ink and just ink up the edge so the white core of the paper doesn't show. Then I adhere my stamp images onto that chipboard piece. I adhere my Life's a Bowl of Cherries, and then the layered stamps will go right on top of that. All right, now we're going to do 1B. So 1B is a side loading pocket. You'll need a piece that is 6 by 9, and with the 6-inch side at the top, score at 5 1/2, rotate, score at half and 8 1/2. And then for the other side, you will need a belly band, and the belly band measures 2 by 9. You're going to score on the long side at 1/2 and 8 1/2 inches. You're going to fold and miter the corners and do all the things. Let's fold and burnish. And we're going to be taking this piece, and it's going to go on the back of page 1, adhering it to the right-hand side of the page. So I just make sure it's all lined up. I try not to go over that score line. In fact, just stay a little bit to the left of that score line, just so that page will open up all the way. So we add a reasonable amount of glue, and I'll go ahead and put that down. Trying to make sure it stays straight. Sometimes I feel like I put it on and it gets wonky. So I'll burnish that. I will add my tape to that tab, just so of course things can go in. And then I'll glue down the sides. Okay, that was easy. All right, and then the belly band just gets centered on the opposing page. And that's all you need to do for that. All right, so I am cutting this paper, and I'm going to cut some of the decorative edges off of it. Now there's the 2 lines on it. I don't want the 2 lines on there. I want them separate. So I cut those 2 lines off. You'll see it. If you take a good look at the paper, you'll see what I mean. And then there is the squiggles, and then there's the dots. I want a piece that's got the 2 lines, the dots, and the 2 lines. So you cut the squiggles off, and you'll have the 2 lines, the dots, the 2 lines. So you'll need 2 pieces of that. So cut off the squiggles. I know, technical terms here. So here we go, moving it. It's probably about 1/2 inch. Probably should have measured it to be more exact. And then I just want one more set of squiggles. I think I have enough. And then I use this paper, which is lovely. I love the green with it. All right, we're going to first start with one of the squiggles, and that is going to go on the belly band page all the way to the right hand side. Just do your best to get it straight. And now I'm going to take the 2 lines, the dots and 2 lines, and one's going to go on the right hand side of the belly band, and one is going to go on the left hand side of the belly band. And then the other squiggle is going to go on the side of the side loading pockets. And I'm sorry, you should have cut those all down to 7 7/8. All right, I need to cut a piece of paper from the red to fill in the belly band piece. But in the meantime, see how this piece has the lines? I cut off the squiggles and it's got the lines and then the stripes going up and down. So I just cut that off and I liked having that detail. Now that might be too much fussiness for you, but I liked how it looked. So that green piece is 2 inches by 5, and the other one is 5 3/4 by 5. I find if I cut them both at the same time, then they're the exact same width. I mean, sometimes I don't fuss with it that much, but in this case I am. All right, and that page is almost done. I'm going to put the green solid on the inside. That piece is 7 7/8. It's probably about 5.5 inches long. The sun's starting to come in. It was a scrap. I didn't feel like I needed to cut it the whole width of the page, but if you want to, you can. And then I've also cut 7 3/8 by 7 7/8 to put under the belly band of that same paper. Once I put it under, I just add adhesive to one side and then the other. By the way, if this video goes too fast, you can slow it down. Just hit the gear for the settings and you can slow it down. All right, now I'm trying to measure to figure out exactly how big that piece needs to be to go in there. And it is 13/16 by 7 7/8, and it's going to go right there in the center of the belly band. I used an eraser and erased all those lines. And then I just put that in there, leaving about a 1/16 of an inch gap in between them all. All right, and then we've got this folder, and then I will show you how to make that, and I'll show you how to make that the stamp. So let's go ahead and do those, and the measurements we need cardstock that is 6.5 by 7 for the right insert and 7 by 8.5 for the left, and you will score that at 3 1/4 with the long side at the top. And this one I do round the corners. I just wanted to have just to soften everything. There's just so many square shapes on this page. And then I fold that and burnish it. And I want to put a photo mat in here, so let me give you the measurements. Of course, the photo mat is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and I'm going to put that down first. And then this one square is 7/8 by 6 3/4. And then I have a little piece that is 4 1/2 by 1/2 inch. And then the piece that goes on the the left hand side. Okay, now we're going to put this piece on. This is from the 6 by 6 paper. I just wanted something a little different to go on the page, and this really goes well with this. And it happened that I cut this out and it says on top, "Life's a Bowl of Cherries," and that the color goes really well. So that'll go like that, that'll go like that, and then this will go in the center. So we'll glue all that down, and then we'll work on what's on the back of this. And again, if you get any embellishments or want to cut some cherries, you could add something in the corner there or something here. There's just all sorts of places to have it. All right, let's work on the other side. All right, we're going to add our photo mat. Staying 1/8 of an inch away from the bottom and my score line. And this I need to trim down a little. Should always dry fit stuff before you put glue on, just so you don't make mistakes like I almost did. Yes, I use 2 different paper trimmers. I have a large one and that one you just saw. Alright, and that goes down. I don't quite have 1/8 of an inch, but it's okay. And then this piece will go across the top. Alright, and then we're going to work on here, so we need to round the corner there and on the bottom. And this piece is interesting because it was from the bottom, so you see the 2 lines actually come to a corner, which doesn't always work that way. But there's that. There's that. I didn't really like the red and green. I thought it was very Christmassy, but when you add the other elements to it, you don't even notice. All right, let us cut, and I'm not going to show you how to cut the chipboard, but we're going to add this chipboard piece, and then also there is one on this side of the insert, and it comes from this paper. It comes from here. So we'll just cut those separately, put them on red paper, which is going to be on chipboard. And then this one, we're going to put this on some white cardstock and then on the red paper that's on chipboard. And then we'll make the insert for this, and then we're done with that page. Okay, we're going to take this 8x8 page, I Love You Cherry Much. We're going to cut off right at the green, and then right across there's a tiny thin blue line, cut on that. Here's the blue line, and right at the green. Leave that dotted line alone. You'll see it if you look at it close. And we're going to take a piece of this green paper, and that is going on our 6.5 by 7 inch insert. So I'll just glue this on. This one's easy. I mean, it's all easy, but this is really easy. Okay, that's on, and then I'll take one of the Life is Sweet and put it at the top of the page, maybe down, oh, maybe about 1/8 of an inch. I guess that's my magical measurement. And then we're going to take this one and put it right next to it. I guess I didn't have to cut that. Okay, and then there's another Life is Sweet, and this will go at the bottom. And I'm going to just put it real close to the bottom of the page. Okay. Okay, there's that side. Cute, cute, cute. And here we're going to take our 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 photo mat. And if you have one of those place photo here, you can use that. I don't. When I sell my mini albums in my Etsy shop, I include a brochure that tells people, I don't know, all about a mini album. And so I don't feel like I need to write place photo here because the brochure explains that. All right, this is about 2 inches wide. And that goes there. And then I have another, this is 4 1/4 by probably about 1/2 inch. We know it's 4 1/4 because it's the same size as this photo mat. And then if you wish, you can take some of the squiggles and put it at the top and bottom. I think I'm going to think about that and not put anything here. I could put ephemera here or use that as a journaling spot. But now we've got that page completely done. So here's the insert, and again, you could put it in this way or this way, or even if you wanted to here, but I like to sort of hide the photo so it's fun once the recipient opens it, or you do. And then here we're going to take one of these chipboard pieces that we've made, and one's going to go here. Oh, I should have glued it on there just in case we wanted to put a photo there. So just glue it on the bottom. And then also we'll take another one and put it here. Now, I didn't plan for this to be right there, so I don't want to put it here, so I'm going to have to put it over a little. And that's okay. I'm going to have it like that. And if you'd like, you can put a squiggle on that side of the page just to balance all those squiggles out. I think I'll do that. So I just cut it 7 7/8. And that will go on the page here. I'm putting it down, yes, 1/8 of an inch. And there we go. So here is the whole back of page 1. All right, we will move on. Alrighty, front of page 2 has just a top loading flap, but it is attached onto a flap which is actually attached onto this is the front of page 2. So we have a couple of pages which give you great room to put some photos. So let's attach this to the page and get started. First thing I'll do is grab my scoreboard and a piece of cardstock that is 8 by 8. And we just need to score at 1/2 inch because the pages are 7 1/2 by 8. And that will give you your page to attach it. Let me grab my book. You know what, before we attach it, let's go ahead and do the next score, which is you'll grab a 6 by 7 piece of cardstock, and with the 7-inch side at the top, score at 1 inch. Might as well get those done. And then the other piece that you'll need for the page is just a 6 by 6 mat, besides all of the lovely pattern paper. All right. So we're going to put this, what was the 8 by 8 piece here, and of course we're going to attach it onto the page, not onto the hinge. I filled up my glue. I did all the good housekeeping things I was supposed to do. So we're ready to rock and roll. So this will go down here. And I can see I burnished it, but I probably need to burnish it a little more, so I will do that now. And again, this is a non-stick bone folder, which helps. You know, sometimes I've used other bone folders that, especially on black cardstock, it scratches the page. So I'm fortunate that these non-stick bone folders don't. I'm going to attach a magnet. So you may have some that have adhesive, and you may have some that don't. I'm going to take these ones with adhesive and put one on the page. I'm not going to put it right in the center here. I just wanted to have it a little bit lower than the center, because you usually grab it down towards the bottom, and just the way the mats are. But it's going to be, there's going to be a 1 inch, I'll put it a little closer, 1 inch piece of pattern paper here, so make sure that it will cover the edge. It actually might even be 7/8. And then I'll take the positive one, take off my backing, match it over to this side, and then there we go. Now, sometimes I'll put some clear cellophane tape, Scotch tape, but I don't have any right now, so I'm not going to. All right, let's work on the front of this page. I did not cut this because I wanted to make sure that it was going to be sized properly, and it is. So this is a piece of the 12 by 12 Pretty Please is the name of this paper. And I just liked how the color matched here. So the primary focus color is this beige, and then the secondary color is the red. And that's how I keep my albums flowing together real well, is I match up the colors. I mean, when I first see a collection for sale, I look to see whether or not it's got enough coordinating colors and patterns. It may not be a coordinating color, it may be a coordinating pattern that I try to match up. So once I know that I'll be able to do something with it, that's when I go ahead and purchase the paper. And of course, you don't have to worry about Graphic 45 because it does always coordinate so well. So I'll go ahead and put that on there. And then now we have this 6 by 7 piece that we've scored at 1 inch. And I'm going to burnish this real well. And this one also will have a magnet. So I'm going to put this, you could center it on the page. For some added interest, I like to have it off-centered. Now that may drive you crazy, and if that does, you don't have to off-center it, you can center it. It's your album. But I do like to have things a little off-centered, just again for added interest, a little drama to the page. So just make sure you've got, it's parallel at the top as well as the bottom. All right, and now I said I was going to put a mat, so this is a 6 by 6 mat. I just want to make sure that it's going to be covered once we put it down. So I'm going to tuck it a teeny bit into that top little piece. And put that there. Make sure it's straight, and then burnish it down. All right, I'm going to put some magnets on, and then we'll get ready to cover the paper. All right, so I have cut my pieces. 5 7/8, and this piece is 7/8 of an inch wide. So I'm going to put that right on the tab. So that's easy. Okay, and then I have this piece which I have going this way. I don't need to erase my chalk lines, which is great. This is 4 5/8 by 4. 4 5/8 by 4. Again, I mean, my measurements work for me, but you may like different size margins. So if that's true, then go ahead and just do whatever measurements you like to do. All right, now, so I had planned on putting this here, but what's wrong with that? There's a large gap because when I cut it, there's red on both sides, and I cut it the red. No harm, no foul. I'm just going to grab a piece of the red cardstock and glue this on. Onto here. What is it about stamps that makes such a great decorative element? You can just put so many cute designs on them, I guess. Alright, so anyhow, that goes on there, and I'm happy with that. And then we have this piece. Comes from that cut apart page in the 8 by 8. And I just cut right at the red, so you'll have some of that little red pattern on top and bottom. And again, that's cut at 5 7/8. And then I have a piece of the, is this called Pretty Please? Yes. The Pretty Please from the 8 by 8. So it's got the smaller dots on it, smaller checkerboard, not checkerboard, polka dots. And there we go. So that is the front of the flap on page 2. Now we get to do the inside. So I've already added my little magnet, and this is going to go on the bottom to cover that magnet and make a fun decorative element. So I'm going to put this down. I'm not going to adhere it yet because what I should have done is grabbed my photo mats, which are, oh, they should be 6 1/4, but this page is 6, so I'm going to have to cut these down. So I cut it down to 5 7/8, so a little more than 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch to be exact. So, and I did that just so it fits on the page. I guess I could have made this whole thing a little bigger than 6, but I didn't, but that's okay. Usually when you have photos, it's easy to cut off a bit of the sky or the yard or whatever it is that you have too much of. So I'll cut down the other one, and this one's going to go here. So I'll go ahead and add that. And then I've got some more of the Pretty Please, which is going to go here. And I need to cut that down. Oh, so that needs to be also 5 7/8. we'll put that on, and then that completes the front flap of the front of page 2. Although as I'm gluing this, I realize I have more of a gap here than I did on previous pages. So I'm just going to find something to put in that gap. If it doesn't bother you, don't worry about it, but I think I'll just grab some of this same paper and put it there. I just must have put this down lower than I did on my original one, but you know, it's not a big deal. Does that bother you? To me, it's like a gaping hole, so I am going to fix that. All right, before I get any further, I want to show you this page, or both pages. So I've got a long strip here, photo mat, a spot for journaling, a long strip here, the photo mat, spot for journaling, and then just another element, paper there, and then a handmade chipboard element. And I realized, what did I do wrong? I have to redo this one because I left the blue on it. And I don't want blue on this page. But what I wanted to show you was how we've got a long strip here and a long strip here. I think I'm going to take this strip and put it on this side because design-wise, I think that would be more pleasing to the eye. So we'll put this one over there. This here at the side. No. This over here. That there. This here. You go over here with your buddy. And then that like that. And you see what I'm doing? It's because I've got these long strips that I feel like it's more, I like it better if it's on the edge. To me, it seems a better composition. I'm going to go with that. Once we get it glued, you'll see what I mean. I'll show you both of them. And the reason I'm showing you some of these design questions I have in my mind as I'm doing it is so you can learn from my process and do your own page designing. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you do anyhow, and hopefully you will even change what I've done even on this album in different ways that please you. It doesn't always have to be exactly the same as what I do. I know imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, so it doesn't bother me if you do. But, you know, we each have different likes and design tastes. So, just giving you the permission, not that you need it from me, to you do you. Sometimes, though, having a good paper collection makes all the difference in the world. You know, every once in a while you'll pick up a paper pad or a pack and try to make something, and it's like work. So I had cherries in the original diagram. So I'll go ahead and do this off camera because it gets boring, and I'll show you what I've done. Okay, so composition wise, I do like this better. Here is that. Of course, I've got the elements in there and it might detract from the whole composition, but I feel like that's more balanced. And then here is my homemade chipboard piece. I'm just putting glue on the top. I guess I could put glue there, but that's going to hold it down. And that'll go there. And then I will wait till I'm done and I get scraps so I can cut the cherries that I put on here and put them there. And then I might even, no, I don't think I need one for there. So that is what I'll do with that page. So we're done with the front of page 2 because this really is part of the front of page 2. So let's look at the back of page 2 and the front of page 3. We'll work on the back of page 2, which really is 2 tags. I mean, really, it's just 2 tags in pockets. I think what makes this page work is all the colors and the gorgeous paper from Graphic 45. So let's do that and see if we can have enough time to do this one. Alright, to start the back of page 2, I cut a piece of 1 inch from the Patterns and Solids, 1 inch by 7 7/8, and we're going to put that on to the right side of the page before we do anything else. So don't forget, we're going to put it on the page, not on the hinge, leaving about 1/8 of an inch of a gap. So that is on there. And then we're going to cut a couple of pieces of cardstock. We're going to cut 2 that are 5 by 5 and 2 that are 4 by 5.5. And we'll grab our scoreboard and score. So the 4 by 5.5 with the long side at the top will score at 1/2 inch. For both of those. So for our pocket, we're going to score on 3 sides at 1/2 inch. So score, rotate, score, rotate, score. And the same with number 2. Alright, and then I'm just going to cut across the X from the score lines on both those pieces. And that way I can get both the scoreboard and my scraps out of the way at the same time. Oops, that one didn't have the score. I was going crazy. So, burnish on the fold lines. Alright, and I'll burnish on this also. Alright, so these are just simply going to go here. So I'll glue that down. And we can glue the bottom tab. So we're going to put it right where that fold is, but on the, if my tab is on the right, we're going to put it right to the left of that fold line, that score line. And you can put a piece of tape right there. So that one will go there. And then I'll grab some tape and put it on both of those pieces. So once I put the tape down, then I'll grab the adhesive down and burnish, and do that to the other one as well. So good about not getting my glue on my surface till just now. Alrighty. And then what we're going to do is, so the pocket's going to go up on the top, but we're going to glue this down. Let's dry fit it. That's the underside. Just want to see how much room there is, and there's not much, but we're going to glue this down so it's about 1/8 of an inch away from that paper. And on mine, it's got to go all the way to the bottom of the page. I'm going to keep it open or in this position so I can make sure it's straight. I'll burnish here and then burnish here. And then we'll do the same with this. Add glue to that tab. Put it here. So there's a little bit of a gap between this one and the last one, which is good. I don't want, I want them to be able to open independently of each other, but still be pretty close to each other. So you just have to play with it and make sure it's the way you want. And then I'll add a couple of magnets here and then put the paper on the back. All right, let's take a look at what we're going to do here. So really, this is just one flap on page 3F, and then there's a flap that goes up that's on the page. So what we're going to do is do this flap, and then we'll do the layers on top of it. Before we do the layers, we're going to do this element, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But let's do the flap real quick. So for that, what you'll need is a piece of cardstock that is 3.5 by 8, and we're going to score at 1/2 and 5/8. 1/2 and 5/8, because I wanted a little bit of a gusset because there's some bulk going to be in that page. All right, and I will fold and burnish on both of these score lines. Sometimes it's hard to fold when you've got one that is so close to the other one, but you can do it. All right, I'll add my glue, and then of course we're going to put this to the far right of that page. Yes, I know my writing's upside down, but we're going to cover it. So I'm just putting it right up against the edge of the page and going to burnish. Did that move? Nope, it's good. So we'll burnish. And then I'm going to go ahead and add this piece. It is, it's called Homemade Goodness. So it's got this fun blue check that we're also going to use on the page. So when I try to figure out what I'm going to put on the page, I'll start with 2 different pattern papers, or 2 different papers, maybe not necessarily pattern. And then I might add a 3rd, and I might even add a 4th, but I try to just keep those groupings, 2, 3, or 4, consistently on the pages. So this one, the main focal point was the cut apart with the cherries, and I'm going to pull that in now. And we're going to work on this. So this was my focal point that I really based the whole the pages off of. So what I want to do is, I don't like the red plaid. I mean, I like the red plaid, but I don't want it for this page. I don't want red. I want to keep it with the blue in this whole color scheme. And you could take it and put it in a paper trimmer and just cut the white on the outside of the blue. But there's some leaves overhanging it, and I really like those leaves and the cherry here because it adds, it makes it interesting. It's not all in that rectangle. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to put this on its side, cut up to that white line. I want that white line to show, and if you have the paper you'll see what I mean, and then stop where anything is overhanging. So like here, I'm going to go down this white line and stop here, start again here, and go to the end there. I don't want the red from the plaid in it, and I want to keep some of that red line, some of that white line. So it's a little tedious, but it's worth it. All right, and now I'll go here. And then stop here because there was a bud. And then start again here after the leaf. And it's easier to do it in a couple of sweeps than one really long, deep cut, because sometimes that's when you rip the paper or whatever. And continue here. All right. I am going to now take my scissors and cut out those details. So here, there's a leaf. I'm going to cut this out. And I'll cut here. If I need to, I'll use the scissors to cut. And then we have a little bud here. And I'm just going to squiggle that. There we go, another leaf here. Lots of leaves, but it really, it's very good artistry. The designs on Graphic 45's images are, just beautiful. You could just take this one cut apart. If this was larger, wouldn't that make a pretty picture? So, cut that. And then I notice I've got a little bit of red here showing. I'm just going to cut that off. So there we go. There is our little element, but we are not done with that. I'll put this in my pile. All right, let me give you the measurements of what we're going to do, and I'll tell you the color. So grab a pen and start writing this down. So you will need black cardstock that's 2 9/16 by 4 1/16. Dark blue solid, 2 13/16 by 4 1/2. Black cardstock, 2 15/16 by 4 5/8. I wrote 4 5/6. 4 5/8. And then this blue check pattern paper, 3 1/8 by 4 15/16. And then black chipboard that's 5 1/16 by 3 1/4. And I forgot to tell you earlier on, if you don't have black chipboard, glue together some scraps, like 4 or 5, it depends on what paper you're using, 4 or 5, maybe even 6 pieces of chipboard. And that'll do just as some what am I trying to say? That will do. That will work as some chipboard if you don't have it. Alright, I'm going to start gluing one layer onto the other. And you don't have to go with my measurements. If you want to do different thicknesses of these, go for it. I just like having a little bit of border sometimes, and other times I like having a bigger border. I just think it's very interesting. If you've ever had photos matted or pictures matted at a framing store, they will probably start with a 2-inch matte margin, or a good one will probably start at a 4-inch matte margin, because there's value to having a large matte margin, not just for the design, but also it allows air to circulate around the picture. And usually mattes, if they're good mattes, are archival, and it just helps preserve your picture. But you'll notice all matte margins are not the same. They don't have to be the same. Alright, there's some glue seeping out. I'll just take the edge of my bone folder and we're good. And then the last one. So here we have that dark blue showing more. So there's more of that dark blue matte margin. And then we go to our cherries. And if you're able to cut it with the white showing, that's fabulous. If not, come down a little. If not, that's okay. If you want, you could add a piece of white cardstock or just forego it. Alrighty. I'm going to try to glue that one, the cherry and the leaf down, just so they don't get disturbed. So here's a focal point for our page. Now I'm going to put this aside, let it dry, and work on building the rest of the page. Alright, so I have cut a piece of the dark blue. It's not really a dark blue, but you guys know what I mean. 2 3/4 by 7 7/8. Oh, I should have known. And with this dark blue, sometimes the core of the white shows, so I just take my ink pad and just run it over with some black. You could use blue if you wanted to, but I'm just using black. Move stuff out of the way. So I will put this on. And then I will grab my flap. This is 6 inches by 7. And we want this centered on the page now. So before we put it down, I'm going to go ahead and put some paper on top on here. So we'll put this pattern. So this is from the small one, and this one is called Hello Sunshine. So we'll go ahead and glue this down. Okay, so I went ahead and added that. You know, in this case, I usually use the liquid adhesive to glue it. If I had 3/8 of an inch, I would use that of double-sided adhesive. I just want to help hold it in place while the glue is drying. So now I'll add glue, and I should put my pattern paper. In fact, I'll do that. Put the pattern paper, it's the same one. It's going to go on the inside. here's the top. There's the top. All right, and the reason you should have the pattern paper is because if there's an overlap, then you've already got the pattern paper there. So let me put this down and then I'll measure. So side to side, it's about 3/4 of an inch on both sides, just about, approximately, and approximately 1/2 an inch from the bottom to the bottom of the mat and from the top to the top of the mat. There is a little bit of a gap here, but that's okay with me. It's about 1/8 of an inch, which you know is my sweet spot. I'm going to take some blue, some dark blue, and put it down on here. So it's the same size as what I had on the front. And don't forget, we've got a double gusset there. If you want, you could cut a small strip of paper to put on there. I am not going to. If it's an 1/8 of an inch gusset, I don't. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you saw, but I had a magnet. I put a magnet here. So I will make sure I have a corresponding magnet to go over on this side, but it's going to go on top of the mat. All right, now that I've done that, I have a piece of cardstock that is 3 1/8 by 6 1/8, and that is simply going to go over here with the edge of it close to the edge of the other one. We're adding interest with different layers. This is not a photo mat, it's just to add a block of color to help rest your eye before we get to that beautiful cherry matted image we've got. Now, I didn't mat it all the way down around, which you could, but again, it's all about adding interest and drama. And so now we can take our fabulous image and center it on the page. And it really creates a striking look. All right, I'm going to glue this. I'm adding a lot of glue. So I'm going to center it on the page. If it's not perfectly centered, that's okay. You do want to make sure that it is not askew. It's not wonky. All right, so that looks pretty. Let's work on the inside a little bit more. So that's all we're going to do with this. You could put a photo mat here if you wanted to. I'm reserving the right to add a photo here. I think a smaller one would be fabulous with a mat, but I'm going to leave that alone. You know why? Because I just think that paper is so pretty. But we will go ahead and add our mat. So this is 5 1/2 by 7 1/4. And I'm going to put the long side at the top and score at 1 inch. I'm liking my 1 inch mats, or flaps, not flaps, I don't know, tabs. I'm liking my 1 inch tabs these days. And this is going to go right on the top. But it's going to go up so you can see a little bit of it here at the top. And it's going to go over about 1/4 of an inch. Yep. And we're going to glue it there at the top about 1/4 of an inch down. So I'm not putting the glued part down till I make sure I got it where I want it to be. So we've got sort of a step here. I like having that little pattern show. Even in garden design, it's important to pick one or two, like one focal feature, a couple of different plants with different textures or patterns, and then repeat those same textures and patterns. All right, is this one here? Nope. I cut it all. I just don't know what's what. All right, let me find that. Oh, it is this one. No, it's not. Let me find that and I'll continue. All right, so I cut this piece 7/8 of an inch by about 5 3/8. And that's going to go on the top, that top tab. And then I'm going to take this piece, oops. So this is from the 12 by 12 paper. So again, we're repeating the pattern, but it's just a larger pattern. And that's going to go over to the left. Whoops, it moved. Get back. Okay, and then I have a, oops, here it is. The small from the 8 by 8, that blue check pattern. And that's going to go over to the right hand side. Okay. All right. I am going to put down now this bottom mat. So this is 6 3/8 by 6 3/8, and it's going to go over here even with this. Now I do want to make sure that you don't see any of it on the bottom, so I'm going to have to tuck it in a little. I may even need to trim it a little, although the other one does show a little bit. Oh, we're gonna go with it. So I will go ahead and glue this down. Again, it's even with the side of this mat. Just sort of push it in a little, so when you open it, you don't see. It's about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom. Have to make sure it's straight. Now at this point, I'm going to take a dot of glue, put it on my magnet. This magnet doesn't have any adhesive, so I need to grab some double-sided tape, put it down here, pull that up, and make sure the magnet will stick. That is my little secret for doing that. Alright, so I have the blue check again, and that's going to go over to the left. Now I don't feel like I need a magnet from on the top and bottom flap, because the magnets here and here are going to hold it all together. So there's that. I have my 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 photo mat. So put that there, leaving an 1/8 of an inch gap. And then I have a small piece. I don't want the blue check. I want this, so I repeat that pattern. Here we go. Because again, you want to have some repetition. You don't want to have 8 different kinds of paper on one page. I mean, maybe you do. I don't. So there we go with that. All right, now we've got this to work on, and I'm going to move the page. So I've got, I didn't want my photo mat to be stacked up against, right up against each other. So this time I'm going to have the small piece over here, and then the photo mat, and then a little bit larger piece. And I'm going to use this tone-on-tone piece because I've got it under here. Make sure I've got it right side up. All right, then my photo mat. And then just blue, just because I didn't want the same piece there. I mean, you could. So you look at it though. It doesn't, it needs something a little different. So I'll go like that. Pull that down. And now we've got this piece and then that piece, and that is fabulous. And then for tags, I'm going to use this paper on my graphic 45 tags. If you have that die, that would be fabulous. If you don't, I would use this paper on top of a tag that you cut yourself. It could just have angled corners. So that completes that page. Now on the other one, I have this piece, and it is of course one of the cut aparts, and I added a little piece on the bottom. I'm not nuts about it. I should have put it on before I glued it, but there's nothing I can do with it now. It's open, but it's glued up here. But I'm just going to leave it. But I'm not going to add that to this page. All right, so that is it. Now all we have to do is the back of page 3, the front of page 4, the back of page 4, and the inside back cover and the cover. So we'll probably split that up into 2 videos. But that is what I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. Before you sign off, go ahead and hit that like button and look in the description box for the next tutorial. Thank you again for watching. Have a fabulous day.